Everybody doing on this Saturday evening? You know what time it is. You know what time it is, my people. You know what time it is, my people. Oh, yes. We have some receipts to be cashing in. Okay, your boy let you know it was going to be a double-digit victory. I did. I did. Yeah, we. Yes, indeed. Sand City Sports. The IG is going on. Yes, sir. Facebook is going on. Yes, sir. Sand City Sports Saturday edition. Day one NBA playoffs. Quite a bit and a bit more to get into. Of course. Let's make sure that YouTube is where it needs to be. Yes, indeed. And last but not least, known for gaming, but at the same time, if the people in the land of Twitch, they want to jump into Sand City Sports and holla at your boy, they are more than welcome. Need to make sure the watch game is gotta get. Hold on. Hold on. No. Let's get the watch game on point. Okay, this side's got to come in. All of a sudden, yep. Clicks over. It's on. It's where it needs to be. Welcome to Sand City Sports, my people. To the business. Go New York, go New York, go! Go New York, go New York, go New. My man CP, the franchise, Knicks Fan TV is going on right now, so I understand. People are where they need to be, okay? And the Cape Cod Kid is here for this episode of Sand City Sports. I told you the last episode what was going to happen. It was touch and go. I was watching it and you were watching it, so I'm not going to be overly triumphant today. We have a lot to get to in this game. Detroit showed well, did a number of things that were disruptive. This was a, you know what I mean? It was a battle. So the final score, double digits, which your boy the Cape Cod Kid made known was going to happen. Okay, check the last episode. I have all the receipts, every single last one, and we're going through. We're going through chapter and verse. Okay, we're line item. Is it not tax season, folks? Hope you got your taxes in. Okay, make sure you got your taxes in and everything is in order. Okay, maybe be good with Uncle Sam. Hopefully you get some things back. Okay, and all right, but hope that is okay. But we going through like tax season, like a good accountant. Okay, all of the talk, the Tibbs slander. Okay, had things to say about the bench. Campaign came through, raining them down. Was ready for prime time in the Big Apple. The stars were out there. Spike Lee in the building, holding court. All right. Across the board, we had Knicks legends. Bernard King was in the building. John Starks, Patrick Ewing, Latrell Sprewell. Beautiful thing. The Garden was rocking. Mostly in the fourth quarter when the Knicks came alive. Okay, for that 21-0 run. For that 21. Oh, Tom Thibodeau. He playing these guys too many minutes. OG Anunoby, he played 44 minutes. Oh my goodness. What's gonna happen? You have the best job in the world and somebody asks you to show up to work and do your thing. Oh my goodness. Oh, this foolishness y'all was talking out there. You're feeling quite confident. All right. And I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. And I got a lot to say. Okay. So we're gonna get, but Detroit, there's some problems. Detroit, there's some problems in the mix. I'm going to let folks know, and I'm letting you know, okay? Jump in the comments, all right? Let me know how you feel, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just, the Knicks, you know what I mean? People are getting back to me about my New York Knicks, and so I'm just getting back to them. letting folks know, that we're doing what we're doing in terms of Sand City sports, and we have an episode for you folks. We a lot to get to, a lot to get to. We have the Lakers and the Mavericks that's going on at halftime. I'm gonna go overhead, you know what I mean, and make sure that we have that game going on. We're gonna jump over onto the ESPN Plus over here. Hold on. Let me see if I can first just get right to it. If they just have it right on. So a lot of times they don't. So I hope everybody out there is doing. Do you have it? Nope. We gotta go. And let me just get the ESPN Plus set up so we can go play by play. A very good game in terms of the Lakers and the Mavericks. All right, day one NBA playoffs. No. We gotta let's get my apps in order. Yep. Get the ESPN. Because ESPN and ABC, the connection right there. So we go to ESPN. Okay, come back. I seen it. This whole streaming world that we're living in, so much great content. You know what I mean? A lot going on. We're early in the vacation season. I hope people out there are enjoying their vacation. And depending on, if you're in education circles, this is vacation time. It's a very busy and a beautiful time in the Commonwealth as well. It's a busy and a beautiful time in the Commonwealth. 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's ride that's being celebrated in the Commonwealth. Saw Governor Healy get up there on the horse and was going down. So, especially if you're a history person like myself, just to celebrate and enjoy and learn from and dive into. It's just wonderful. So we're celebrating in Massachusetts and then nationwide. Okay, these signature moments for America, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, right? Of thee I sing. So celebrating and lifting all those things up. And then just like that, tomorrow is what? Well, tomorrow is Easter, Resurrection Sunday. Okay, so very important day in the Judeo-Christian calendar for those that are celebrating. Okay, a high point, the high point in the faith. And in terms of reconciliation, between God and man in Christ. Again, Sand City Sports, I recognize people are coming from different faith traditions, but Resurrection Sunday, Easter, however you acknowledge it, it is tomorrow for those that are celebrating. For those that not, that's okay too. But again, just a day of, it's a solemn, very solemn day. Again about that, about reconciliation, about sacrificial love, kind of so on and forth. So it kind of makes you take a step back and do the self-examination, right? That's what I think, in terms of the cross cultural exchange, I would say, and this is, again, we're going to talk sports, we're going to talk culture, so on and forth. And, this is not necessarily to say that people need to believe, one way or another, but I'm just talking about what's going on in the world. Tomorrow is Easter, Resurrection Sunday, however you acknowledge it. Okay. And it's also a part of, depending on where, if you work in education circles, it's spring vacation, right? So a time, rest and rejuvenation. We have to finish our school year, and we're going to do that strong. But then, so big day tomorrow, Monday, Marathon Monday, also Patriots Day, right? So talk about the history, 250 years, Paul Revere's ride, a lot to just take a step back and wow, America, God shed his grace on thee, Ray Charles, and found thy good. Minnesota coming through up 20. I'm in my go New York mode over here. These Timberwolves, that Ant-Man Edwards. We'll see if the Lakers can make a move. But people, talking about these 3-6 matchups and Lakers going to the finals and so on and forth, I can respect it. The Lakers are going to be, the Lakers are a good team. They're very good. Okay, but please, don't sleep on the young lions and Anthony Edwards, right? The reason that, people are still raining down on Nico Harris, and we do have a couple things, you know what I mean? If you was watching the play-in tournament yesterday, how the camera had to go to Nico Harris when Anthony Davis was hobbling off of the, you know what I mean? Had to go to Nico. Again, Nico is taking the heat right now, but he didn't make the decision. The owner was at the game as well. So the owner was the one that made the decision to send Luka to the La La Land, and that's who made the decision. But Nico's taking the heat. That's just, what I mean, when you're, you know what I mean, the money is heading up the pyramid, and the problems are heading down the pyramid. That's just that's just the way it goes. You sit at the top of the pyramid, and money coming up to you. You anywhere else but the top, problems coming down to you. Handle that. So Nico said, I have no regrets, because Nico's happy to have a job, a good job. But a part of that job is, Nico, you got to be the fall guy. You are the fall guy. So as Anthony Davis, you know what I mean, and Mavericks, they did their best, but you know what I mean. You take away your two best players and break up a continuity that got you to an NBA Finals. I don't know what people expect. So we have light. I had like extra light, so we can still see me clearly, but it was like the light in that was shining. I was like, oh man, blinded by the light. Whoop, that's good. But I go into that only because Lakers down 23, and we'll see if they can cut in. It's gonna be difficult for them. Because this matchup is another reason why people are going to continue to rain down on the Mavericks. And it really should be the Mavericks. It shouldn't be Nico Harrison. It's the Mavericks. It's the organization. It's their ownership that decided to go and try to reinvent the wheel. But in reinventing the wheel, this Lakers Timberwolves series is instructive, because there wouldn't have been this level of animus, outcry, outrage, fury vis-a-vis the Luka Doncic trade if you had gotten Anthony Edwards in return. And Timberwolves up 23, that Ant-Man on the prowl, handling business, right? The T-Wolves, a well-coached team, okay, that is talented, top to bottom, right? They gave up Catman, who's in New York. He's in New York doing what he does for my New York Knicks, right? That Catman, I got my lower lumbar here. You know what I'm saying? Got the lower lumbar. Make sure I have the support. Come over here for a second. All right, but Julius, under the capable leadership of Tom Thibodeau, was an all-star these last 2 years, okay? It's taken him a little while to kind of get, right? But, Julius there, Rudy, your defender, rim protector behind him. Yeah. You got DiVincenzo, who we missing in New York. You got Ragu. We're missing DiVincenzo. Campaign came through and did his thing today. Okay? So Leon Rose, Worldwide West, they restocked the cupboard in New York. I was La Cosa Nova all the way, still am. I didn't want to see that broken up. Okay? But in losing Ragu, we have Campaign. We have Landry Shaman. We have a young bull coming up in Tyler Kolek. We have Deuce McBride. Okay, so the pantry is stocked up. It's stocked up. We got. Okay, we come. You know what I mean? We lose one, and people with the Tom Thibodeau. Oh my goodness, he asked people to enjoy, and you know what I mean, and take this load management nonsense, folks. Okay, you have the best job in the world. What are we talking about now? That you know what I mean? Oh my goodness, he has to play 44 minutes, and like 18 TV breaks. Are you kidding me? Anybody that says that, you never played basketball or you never played men's league, you never no type of basketball. Okay, high school, you don't get tired when you're out there. Here and there, touch and go, but you want to be out there hooping. And a real hooper, when you're tired, just sub me out. I'm tired. Get somebody else in here. Right? And if you have any type of coach or captain, they're going to get you out the game because they see you lagging. But that aside, if I'm competing and I'm doing what I'm doing, let me cook. It's the point of having all these ingredients and all the restaurant and the oven. We want to cook things up. And Ant-Man is cooking right now. Right? If it had been Luka for Ant, if it had been Luka for Giannis, it had been Luka for Shea, you wouldn't have the madness. Okay? Because those are players and these, lions that are taking over the league. 25, 26, That's who you can trade for. Okay? AD, he's on the back nine. He's been doing better, but, his reputation is street clothes. So you did it to yourself. And the Timberwolves, right? I don't. The Lakers are contenders in 2K. They're playoff contenders on paper. All right, but it's going to take them some time. They have the talent, but all these other teams in the West are very talented. Never mind the teams that haven't scuttled themselves, right? Scuttle. You got a chance to go over and hang out with my good buddy Endicott today, who was a fisherman on the high seas for many a moons. My dude, Endo's the man. I might be able to get you a picture of my main man Endicott, so you can just kind of understand. You know what I mean? He was a fisherman for many years on the high seas. He's not a fisherman, anymore, but he's a dude, right? Down Easter Alexa, Shout out to Billy Joel once again. I was talking about the boss. The boss is one of my just smack people in the face with this load management nonsense. I talk about, Bruce Springsteen, right? The boss in New Jersey. I actually have, we're going to do some things for the culture, but I had, and I'm a huge Sopranos fan. Shout out to David Chase. Huge Wire fan. Shout out to David Simon. Huge Breaking Bad fan. Shout out to Vince Gilligan. Game of Thrones as well. Shout out to David Benioff. So all of these series, all of these creators, okay? That's why we talk about Sylvester Stallone on Sand City Sports. We talk about Matty D and Ben Affleck, okay? All this stuff, you know what I mean? We get upset. It's a grind. It's 9 to 5, you know what I mean? And work-life balance. We talk about all of the and the whole nine that we're going through. We go through. Everybody's going through their different go-through. Bottom line, if you want something done right, do it yourself. If you want something done right, I want something done right, do it yourself. That's the bottom line. And all those people that I just mentioned, David Chase, I had a, because what I do, I don't know how everybody, you know what I mean? We're going to talk culture, you know what I mean? I go to my hits. I go to my Wire. I go to my, Sopranos. I do the Treme, another one of David Simon's series that's off the charts, you know what I mean? It's like if you like Training Day and you haven't seen Brooklyn's Finest, you're doing yourself a disservice. That might be a little bit of free game that if you like Training Day and you haven't seen Brooklyn's Finest, we're talking about Antoine Fuqua now. Young, dynamic director. See, people know Training Day. They don't know Brooklyn's Finest, which is awesome as a film. Crime drama is just awesome. So if you like The Wire and you haven't seen Treme, you're doing yourself a disservice. Just know that. In terms of David Simon. I can't really speak about The Deuce, which is a later series. Much different. The Deuce, it was innovative in certain ways, but it hit different. The Deuce hit different. It's about New York in the 70s and 80s and about the rise, certain industries. It's different. Okay. Treme, about New Orleans after the storm, groundbreaking stuff. Meaning David Simon was talking about some stuff in the Treme that as the series was going on, investigations took place government looked in and things were rectified in terms of how government needs to be better and can be better and should be better and will be better. So you had some things that he was speaking to and highlighting about the American experience, frankly, that subsequently were corrected within our body politic as a nation. Yes. Okay. So that I just, so that's, what I mean? So that's what I do. I get into I try to, and I love my creative space, and I'm doing what I'm doing, but then I'll have my series on in the background, and I'm just you just watch these things over and over, and you're always gleaning and picking things up and learning from them. But the bottom line is now I'm just going through, and you've seen these episodes so many times, but you still, the scenes are poignant, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just watching it, and I got a gem. I'm not even going to tell you the gem that I received, but it's like I saw something that was so right. What am I trying to say with this? You know what I mean? You ever let me give if you like, and I'm not putting this on the same level, but True Detective season 1, McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, off the charts. I don't know about the other seasons, but season 1 of True Detective is bananas. Bananas. It's crazy. As the other season, I've heard, I haven't watched all of them, so I can't really speak to a person, but you know what I mean? I've heard that, season 1 was bananas, season 2, you know what I mean? It doesn't, you know what I mean, like these all-time greats, like The Sopranos and The Wire and Breaking Bad, is just continual ascension, as far as I'm concerned, and many others. But one thing they talk about in True Detective is that old detective curse, where, like you the answer was there in the beginning, but it took you the whole thing to find it. But you could see it from the beginning, but you couldn't see it. Right? And that's what I got a little bit of in The Sopranos. That it was nuts. There was and I'm not gonna tell you exactly where it is. I'll let you, for my Sopranos people out there, discover it. But David Chase himself, I never knew he was in the Sopranos. Like, he played a small role in the Sopranos, and just after so many, I mean, Sopranos been off the, but that was early 2000s. And again, it's set in New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey, and that's why a lot of it, really hit, because the Sopranos is set in Caldwell, New Jersey. Caldwell is like a suburb of Newark. I was born in Summit, New Jersey, which is just these are all communities in and around Newark. So in watching The Sopranos, I was like, this is people from the tri-state area, like, I know where those places are. And then it's just great. It's just masterfully done. But, and then a quick aside, during the pandemic, talking Sopranos, Michael Imperioli and Steve Sciarippa, Michael Imperioli, Chris Moltisanti, Steve Sciarippa plays Bobby Bacala. It's just awesome, right? We don't play or hate, we congratulate. So check out Talking Sopranos if you haven't. It's just a great series. And that, they started it and then the world shut down. So that was like what we were watching. And a lot of people went back to those series in that otherworldly time of the pandemic. Lakers down 24. Minnesota just making it clear. Another player that people don't really appreciate on Minnesota, along with Julius Randle and along with Rudy, is Naz Reid, who's in tremendous shape, completely reinvented himself. They just have, and this is what I'm going to get to when we talk about Detroit. We're going to get all the way back to Detroit. I'm going to finish my point about the Sopranos. Detroit's length bothered New York, and Ant-Man is heading out. Okay, he just fell down. A little bit bumped, He's going to take some time off. He could take the rest of the game off. This game's in hand. And I just sit him down. Yeah, okay. Yep. He's done for the night. He's done enough. Hopefully it's not serious, but yeah. Minnesota serving notice right now. West is monstrous. It's just absolutely monstrous. Okay, so back to the point. Oh, it's like Minnesota. I was saying, they're just long across the front line. And the Detroit Pistons, the Knicks made the move. They had the 21-0 run. They won by double digits. I have a lot to say, and I'm going to say all of it. I kept every single last receipt. You're going to hear me. The Tibbs slander, the disrespect, and it's not really disrespect because Detroit, right? They were winning most of the game until the Knicks went on a 21-0 run. So the people that said this 3-6 series is a problem, y'all was right. To a certain extent. Yeah, I mean, you didn't realize, that we about that. Yeah, really, we about that life in New York, and we mean business. But there was a lot of things that need to improve. The offense was isolation; it was stagnant for a lot of time, and making the run that was made, it was a lot of just isolation, just individual shot making. Guys just made contested and hard shots. Shout out to Campaign. Shout out to Karl Anthony Towns. They just, but we did not move the ball like we needed to. Did not utilize Mikal Bridges at all. Campaign went wild, but the utilization of Mikal Bridges was awful. From what I saw, just absolutely awful. Okay, and let's be clear about this. Amen Thompson. Shout out to actual coaching and leadership. Y'all gonna learn when you see what Amen Thompson is all about. And I love the fact that he's up there for Defensive Player of the Year, which he should be in consideration for, and how he is going to just be causing havoc under the capable leadership of Ime Udoka, coming from the Greg Popovich tree. Actual real coaches, not this foolishness that's going on across the board in sports. People poking their lip up because they don't want to come up under actual leadership. Also, mindful, we're keeping Greg Popovich in our thoughts, in our prayers. You know what I mean? Because had another incident, where he's out and he, fainted at a restaurant, had to be taken, so, okay, Pop, we're thinking about you, and you mean a lot to a lot of people, so rest and you know what I mean? Get healthy. Lakers making a move, 10-0 run, they're still down 27 or 17, excuse me, so, all right, maybe they make, again, you cut it to 10, then you got a chance, so we'll see. I'm saying this is done, but, it's not over till it's over. It is not over till it's over. But folks, what I'm saying, and right, I'm gonna say a lot today about my Knicks. But in fairness, now we talked about Detroit and how Amen Thompson, you're gonna learn. People are just, Golden State, and they're gonna beat Houston in 5. You're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. And it was the same thing that Detroit had to learn a lesson because they barked up the wrong tree. They barked up this tree. They barked up the wrong tree. You understand, in terms of what we're doing in New York, even though we got a lot to work on. But let's make it clear. Ausar Thompson was giving Jalen Brunson fits all game. All game. Jalen Brunson is 5'11", 6, maybe, you know what I mean? Or whatever he is, 6 foot mat, you know what I mean? Ausar Thompson is 6'7", 6'8". Supreme athlete who's committed to the process. Just like, his brother, committed to I'm not worried about shots. I'm going to be as efficient as possible. I'm going to be and just do what and it starts. And again, this is what, you know what I mean? Right? Master your role. And Detroit, with Cade at the point, Cade is 6'8", 6'9". Hardaway is the shortest player, is like 6'4". It's a short. Hardaway is the same size as like Josh Hart, 6'4", 6'5", and he is their shortest player and plays the 2. Then they go Thompson, 6'8", like 6'7", like he's like 6'7", 6'8". Harris, 8. Jalen Duren, 6'10". And they're all in tremendous shape. Small, so just across the board, that size and just athleticism and explosiveness, even though they did miss a couple dunks, and Thompson missed a dunk, got it back, scored it. And by the way, Hardaway was fouled. That was crazy when the ball went, but didn't go through the basket. Good call on the ref because it didn't go all the way through. So it touched and then it bounced out. So there's no basket. Good call for the refs. Know those rules. But he got fouled. They should have been to the line for 2. Yeah. The reason he didn't, because grabbed his arm. So that would have been one to review because he got fat. But the length, athleticism, explosiveness of Detroit had the Knicks on the ropes most of the game. We're not going to act like that didn't happen. It certainly happened. And that's one for me where, yes, we won this game. Yes, we struck when the iron was hot. And guys made buckets and the Garden came alive and Detroit showed their youth and inexperience. They most certainly did. They, and we got after, and then they started messing up and we was right there to take advantage, just turning them over and a lot of empty possession and but the way that Detroit played when we made the move was the way that the Knicks had been playing all game. That's a problem. It's a problem. You just have Mikal Bridges out there as a doggone decoy. We need to get some movement, some ball movement, not just give the ball to Jalen, Brunson like it's last year when this team, you know what I mean? There was no OG last year. There was no Mikal Bridges last year. It was Brunson again. There was no Karl Anthony Towns last year. It's a completely different team last year. So it could be Jalen Brunson against the world because he was out there with, you know what I mean? We needed Ragu to come to get us buckets. We needed Josh Hart to come out there and get us buckets. You know what I mean? You ain't have like Mitchell Robertson. Like we didn't have the team. iHeart was out there, who was doing his thing for OKC, was out there getting us buckets. It was spit, it was spit and glue last year. We got, 2 all-star level, OG, borderline. Mikal Bridges is an all-star level player. And Cat started in the all-star game. We got 3 dudes. It shouldn't just be give the ball to Jalen Brunson and let him create. I'm very displeased about that. Particularly when Ausar Thompson is giving Jalen Brunson fits. He can't get up the court. Reason he can't get up the court because he's giving up a whole foot. And Thompson is a superior athlete. That's JB Bickerstaff. He's doing his thing coaching-wise. They took the ball. They took Brunson out of the offense for stretches because he wasn't bringing the ball up. And then Thompson was just like, no, you're not getting the ball, period. And you're not getting by me. That was a really good no call by the refs late in the game when he just, he's just running into somebody that's bigger than him. They just fell out of bounds. What do you want me to do? Thompson got a couple nickel dimers where Brunson is just, like you bumping into somebody. Like, why are you running into walls? Why do you run into walls? Shout out. And this is a big Club Shay Shay probably coming on after the Lakers game. You know what I mean? But it's a big night. Sand City, we're here for all of it. Sand City Sports, it's looking like we're going to be here for 2. It look like we're getting 2 tonight, folks. That's what it looking like. Because we got a lot to get to. So we're looking like 2 for Sand City. I wanted to be with you last night, too. So just based off of that, I didn't get with you last night. So it might be 2+. Might be 2+, folks talking about. We got WWE going on right now as well. What's going on? Oh, in the chat, they giving me problems in the chat. I told them Knicks -10. I tried to warn them. Then they got upset. Talking about the Knicks are trash and okay. We keeping every single one of these receipts. Yes, indeed. Folks, this offense, the Knicks, this is a problem. Okay? Tibbs, you're a basketball lifer. You're a basketball, you know what I mean? It's like Tibbs and these guys, we talked about it, that just been doing this, you just have so many things in your Rolodex. By the way, meant to be with you last night, folks. But you know what I mean? So that's on me, right? I didn't get to my passion project how I lit like I needed to do. But bottom line is this. I meant what I wanted to say last night, but I'm saying tonight, we've been talking about playoff Jimmy. The new that we need to be talking about is playoff Spoelstra. We need to be talking about playoff Spoelstra, folks. Not playoff Jimmy. It's playoff Spoelstra. Okay? Because that man Eric, that man Pat, Alonzo at these games, okay, went all the way to the finals from the play-in, okay? That playoff Spoelstra. That was a really good game in the ATL. Down the stretch, it was back and forth. And the Hawks came back. And Trey was a dude down the stretch. They just gave him the ball. He was getting buckets. I will say a couple of the plays that they down the stretch, it should have been in Trey's hands. George Niang, pride of, I believe he's from like the Lowell, Massachusetts area, played for BABC, made a role for himself in the NBA, just being a dude, you know, and you know what I'm saying? But down the stretch, some of those possessions, I felt it should have went to Trey. And then if he could kick it to you, that's one thing. But Trey was giving the ball up and not getting it back down the stretch. Mistake. You know, get the ball back to Trey and play off of him is what I would have said. Because at the same token, as the game got nip and tuck, playoff Spoelstra, right? That's what in the playoff, Jimmy, playoff Spoelstra. In terms of the heat and the strength of their organization and people having the things that they did to say. People having things to say. Playoff Spoelstra. Okay, if he's on the dig. That ball was in Tyler Hero's hand. That ball was in Bam's hand. That ball was in Wiggins' hand. And then Mitchell, Davion, I believe the Mitchell, who I love to see, out of Baylor, defensive, just hound dog, running the team in terms of heat culture. Yes. And then Hightower, I think was the other guy that they had out there, right? Playoff Spoelstra. We got our three dudes. Wiggins, #1 overall pick. Bam, out of Kentucky, the Calipari tradition. All right, tried and true, all-star level, Olympian. And then Tyler Hero, all, you know what I mean? So we're going to run the stuff through our guys. And then we got our 2 worker bees out there to fill in and just get it done. Okay, so from the Atlanta standpoint, Quinn Snyder knows his business, and they're missing Jalen Johnson, who, you know what I mean, Quinn Snyder's a Duke guy, Jalen Johnson's a Duke guy, didn't work out for him during the pandemic year, hurt his draft status, and rightfully so, because he wasn't committed to the team like he should have been in this whole NIL nonsense that we got going on. But now he's found himself, you know, and he's trusting the process and doing what he's supposed to be doing. And so Jalen Johnson was balling this year, so that hurt him going down with the injury. But he will be back. You know, but the bottom line is like, I get the whole, you know what I mean, we're going to spread the wealth, but it's Trey's team. And Trey's had his issues. Nate McMillan was a good coach, should still be there, frankly. You know, sometimes, you know, so Trey's had his issues. You know what I mean? You need to respect coaching, you know, and he's had to get himself, and I think he's done a better job with that this year. But still, you know, get the ball back to Trey and move out the way, please. Get the ball back to our guy, and we're going to play off of him, not use him as a decoy. And then back to the Knicks, okay, in terms of Mikal Bridges. They need to get the ball to Mikal Bridges. And Tibbs, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Doggone it. You have so many schemes. Call a freaking play for Mikal Bridges. You know, I don't, you know what I mean? No. The Knicks offense, too much ISO. This is the one point that was made in our chat that I can respect. That they said. Okay, the IG is good. Facebook, I appreciate my people that's rocking with us on the Facebook. I see you out there, you know what I mean? Facebook is good. Let me know what you think, good, bad, indifferent. Jump in, you know what I mean? Comment. Appreciate you. All the other platforms are good. I'm seeing YouTube, Twitter, man. Twitter, I respect, but there just be too much chaos sometime on Twitter. I appreciate my people on Twitter that's with me. Much love and respect and appreciation. Again, comment. Let me know what you think, what you feel, good, bad, or indifferent, and we play off of that. Okay? Okay? Because on Sand City Sports, you know, different programs have a different Sand City Sports, mi casa and su casa. That's how we getting down. That's mi casa, su casa. Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. Okay? Knicks, as that, you know what I mean? We got too many weapons to just be predictable and isolation, and you know, and to a certain extent, like Mikal Bridges was passing it, and I know obviously there's that Nova connection, but at the same time, you know, it's ridiculous to me, particularly when Thompson is giving Brunson fits, and again, Bickerstaff, this is coaching. We picking you up 3/4 court. We're not giving you No movement. Nothing. Yes, and Jalen Brunson has, people have tried that. They put bigger defenders on him, and he can to a certain extent, but, he's got, like, this is the Iguodala factor. This is what the Thompson brothers are bringing to the table that I'm just, it warms my heart, okay? And it's instructive for so many people. It just, so much of just the basketball culture. That the Thompson twins are lottery picks. They've been, but you got to master your role. And we're going to get, I got to get this for you on the screen. We're going to get this. We're talking about it. We're going to get the first clip on the screen. Because I don't agree with Draymond on everything, but this is one thing that me and Draymond or Hold on. Let me just send the link. Let me send the link, right? Copy. Let me let folk know what you know what I mean, what it is. Boop. We get my let him know. Bro might jump on. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate that very much. Player down. Okay, they're being attended to. Okay, so we back with you. Yes, for the Knicks. And, Thompson. But doggone it, just let, it makes no sense to have Josh Hart bringing the ball up if you're the Knicks. Josh Hart is your energy, power forward guy. Back to what I was saying about the Thompsons. Back to what I'm saying about them mastering. Okay, that's what we need to get for you. We need to get Draymond Green mastering your role. Yes, this is what I need. Let him know, Draymond. We're going to get, do I agree with Draymond on everything? We didn't discuss this. But this right here, what? Tell him, Draymond. This is what the respect that I have for the Thompson brothers, causing fits for my Knicks, not using Bridges, who needs to be bringing the ball up. Come on, Draymond, tell him.
We can talk IQ all we want, but at the end of the day, mother got to play a role in the NBA.
Tell him.
It's 2 motherfuckers on the team that can do what the they want to do, and 13 other motherfuckers that got to play a role. So it's 2 niggas on your team, whatever that is, that can do what the they want to do. Everybody else got a role, so you're going to either master your role or you're going to get the fuck out. And it's just that simple. And running hard, 2 minute sprint, really? It's going to jog? That's bullshit. You don't work hard. And don't tell me, oh, it's just the end, because that's the end. Playoffs. Ask them how hard it is to win a championship. It's the end. Why mother lose? Because they can't get to the end. You can't get to the end. So I watched y'all do this 2 minute sprint, and maybe 10 people took it serious. There's 40 motherfuckers in here. Maybe 10 people took it serious. Why? Because you think you're done? Well, you won't make it to the end. That's hard as fuck. And when you finish, you're exhausted. And everybody sitting here, nobody's exhausted. You don't push your fucking self. You gotta push yourself, man. You want to make it to the end, you gotta push yourself. Whatever your end goal is. If your end goal is to make it to the NBA, you gotta push through the 2 minute sprint. If your end goal is to stay in the NBA, if your end goal is to win a championship and be champions, you gotta push to the end. But I just watched like 35 motherfuckers do this. The line was right there. Stop. Do this. You don't want it. You gotta want this shit, man. We can talk IQ. We can talk all of this shit. At the end of the day, the motherfucker wanted more is going to get it. So I promise you, I'm gonna want it more. Ain't nobody gonna want it more than me. I may not be the best ball handler, shooter, but ain't nobody gonna want it more than me. And that's a skill. That's a skill that, by the way, anyone can possess. Anyone can have that. It's all about if you want it.
Tell him, Draymond.
This is why you don't even listen to Draymond Green, man. That players that supposedly know a lot about this game too, right? Was he going to talk about Cat tonight too and how Cat dominated?
Knicks fans. So, like I said, great minds. The Knicks fan TV was talking about Draymond, and we came from Draymond, and then they was talking about. I don't know if that's tonight though, because I think CP franchise is on. CP is on. What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's going on, bro?
Not too much. Let me put my headphones on. Should have had these on the ready. Knew the possibility was there that you would jump on with us for Sand City Sports. Talking about a couple things. But mostly my New York Knicks and the respect that we need to have on their name. The respect that needs to be on my New York Knicks name in terms of the victory that they just had.
You beat the Pistons at home. You were supposed to win that game.
Yeah, but there was a lot of talk about, Knicks and then,
But you're supposed to win that game.
Yeah.
You're supposed
we're supposed to win now, but a lot of people didn't feel that.
I don't know what. Once you win one in Detroit, then you'd be excited. But you're supposed to win at home. You're supposed to win at home.
Yeah. If we were supposed to win, a lot of people wouldn't be talking about these 3-6 series and how certain teams are in quote-unquote trouble. That was what they were saying.
Okay, well, they're supposed to win at home. So, in terms of stealing home court, so if the Knicks go up 2-0, then get a little excited. But right now, they're supposed to win that game. If they lose that game, you're worried. They're supposed to win. That's they're supposed to win.
Okay, I want people to keep that same energy about the Knicks and what they're supposed to do, because some of us feel they're supposed to be in the conference finals.
Hey, guess what? The road stops next round, so it doesn't matter. So the Celtics will sweep the Knicks.
More receipts that we keep track of.
Good.
Folks that have a hard time putting respect on the Knicks name based on how this team is being built up and how this team can perform, what their roster allows itself. I mean, you have 2 starters in the All-Star game. I mean, you're not nobody. I mean, did the Celtics have 2 starters in the All-Star game? No, they just had 1. So, look, this game showed that there's vulnerabilities. I did not. Now, that's what I was just saying. I did not like the offense. Even though there was a 21-0 run that broke the game open, there was a lot of isolation stuff, a lot of stuff off turnovers. Big thing for me is Mikal Bridges needs to be incorporated much more. OG much more. There's too much standing around and just one person dribbling, letting other people watching them.
ISO. It's too much standing around and let Brunson go ISO. I mean, I love it. I love Brunson, but that's not gonna get you far in the playoffs.
No, and it's not a good use of all-star level talent. Okay, so Karl Anthony Towns is you need to run, not just have him stand there and wait to get the ball. I need to see more ball movement. I need to see ball movement. I need to see man movement. I'm seeing, as I said, standing and watching. And Tibbs is my guy. Tibbs is my favorite coach. You know what I mean? And people are gonna, you know what I mean? You watch yourself when you have anything to say about Tibbs, because I got something for you. But I can be critical at the same time. Their offense did not look good to me all game. And the run, as I just said, Campaign, who really, I don't know why people in Phoenix, let him go. But he's always been a spark plug guy that, a scoring point guard. He can score. And he's got confidence. And, he was he turned the tide, frankly. The energy that he brought, the shot making, that's what, because the Garden was quiet. It was silent, and Detroit, one of the things, and it's not that people, what time it is as far as I'm concerned. So I'm here.
I don't think Cade played. I don't think Cade played his best game offensively.
not his best game, and particularly when they made the run, he faded. But Cade, he had the team
Cade he
controlled the game.
controls the pace.
Yeah.
Cade control. That's what I really like about Cade's game is he controls the pace, not of just of his flow's team, but almost like the whole pace of the game.
Yeah. And he's 6'8", explosive. Like he's an elite athlete. And I think that's what you saw. He got a lot of straight line drives where he just beat the initial pressure and just like people, like they didn't know what to do. So they played him for the pass and he's just like, I'm just going to dunk it. He got a couple, like there was at least 3. There's just 3 where he just beat he can, and that's the other thing that I didn't like. Why is OG guarding Cade the entire game like we don't have Mikal Bridges? Why don't you give him different looks? You know what I mean? You can put Josh Hart on him.
You didn't hear what they said? You didn't hear what their thought process on that was? And I believe it. Bridges is too small.
That's nonsense.
Like weight-wise. Yes, he's weight-wise. I feel like they're the same size, and I feel like Cade Cunningham is so much bigger than Mikal Bridges.
Okay, so let's address that right now. The idea that Mikal Bridges cannot guard Cade Cunningham straight up, to me, is hogwash. It's preposterous. I can't stand it. Based on the fact that Mikal Bridges was in line for Defensive Player of the Year. And, by the analytics, Marcus Smart got Defensive Player of the year that Mikal Bridges was right there. There were some analytics that said that he actually was the better defensive player. It was a toss-up. I was happy for Marcus Smart. Good, for him. But Mikal Bridges is an all-NBA first-team level defender. Now, this idea that because he is, these people that are skinny, you know what I mean? Wemby changed that conversation when he said, people say that, people say that, we need to bulk up. Wemby was like, no, I think other people need to skinny up. So the idea that because somebody does not have great physical strength, that they don't have great functional strength, I don't buy. Back to what I'm saying. We need to see Mikal Bridges on Cade Cunningham, and Tom Thibodeau needs to rotate his on-ball defenders and not just leave OG out there. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to say,
I speak?
One more second. You'll speak in a second because I'm done with my take. It's that I'm telling you right now, Mikal Bridges, clink. Hold on. Clink, 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 clink. We need him on. No. Mikal Bridges will lock up point guards.
So you think Mikal Bridges is a better defender than Obi?
I think they're equal.
No. Because if they were equal, Mikal Bridges would have at least took one little time on Cade. They didn't even that wasn't the question. Mikal Bridges was not guarding Cade Cunningham, not 1 minute of that game, because he don't want no smoke. Because like you said earlier, you saw how many straight line drives Cade Cunningham has. Straight line, meaning he's going directly through Mikal Bridges to the basket. That little Chipotle diet is not cutting it when it comes to Cade Cunningham. Bonafide superstar.
Yeah, Cade's a dude. Shout out to Cade Cunningham, who, like his story, went to Oklahoma State because his brother was coaching there, doing it for the family. As I understand it, he's a vegan, and he's talked about that. So his diet is next level. He's in unbelievable shape. I don't think people realize, he was number 1 pick. Jalen Green's number 2 overall pick. Jalen Green is going to, because I made it clear that the Rockets are going to they're going to gentleman sweep the Warriors out of the playoffs. They're going to lay hands on the Warriors, and people are going to learn to respect what that team has got going on. But Jalen Green is, you see a lot of his highlights. He's explosive. Cade Cunningham is also explosive, and you saw signs like he's a dude. And there's been some instability in Detroit, i.e., they shouldn't have brought. They had bad coaching when he got there. I forget who the coach was before Monty, but then Monty didn't want to be there. And now he's got like a coach and you can see the difference, how it's just night and day. They lost over 20, like 20, plus 25 plus games in a row last year just with dysfunction. And now this year, with the functioning organization and talent on their roster, they're playing much better. So back to Cade. He's a rising star, in the league. And it would have happened sooner if he had structure around him to allow him to flourish like he's able to do. He's a whole, He's a tremendous problem. But back to my New York Knicks. Mikal Bridges will be a problem for him, okay? Because Mikal Bridges is an elite defender, all right? That can and will give him problems. And I just, like Tom Thibodeau, I like certain things. I like the toughness. I like you guys playing you guys minutes. I like the short rotation. But there are these adjustments that he can make that he's not making, okay? People, yes, I'm telling you right now, the last OG, is a highly rated defender. That's why we brought him in, but he's different than Mikal Bridges because you talk about like people need better.
He's
Okay,
better.
you can say that. I say they're equivalent, but again, you look at OG. He has much more physical strength. He's much more burly than Mikal Bridges, but his body also breaks down. Okay, so he's been injury prone his entire career. So you have to rest the last OG at times where Mikal Bridges is able to play.
What does that have to do with
whereas
him
Mikal
guarding
Bridges
the
is
best
able
player?
to play. He doesn't miss games.
You want the gentleman playing every game trophy, but he's not going to guard Cade Cunningham. Sorry. At the end of the day, he's not locking up the best player on the other team. So if that's how good of a defender he is, he's not the best defender on his team.
Okay,
OG's a better defender than Mikal Bridges every day of the week. It's 1A to 1B. Sorry. Mikal Bridges took a step back in terms of people came into the league that are better defenders than him. Amen Thompson's a better defender than him right now. Every day of the week. So
Amen Thompson is on track to be the defensive player of the year. So you want to say that Amen Thompson is a better defender than Mikal Bridges?
He came into the league 2 years ago, and he's better than Mikal Bridges. I feel like ever was in a defensive way ever in the league. I don't care. I literally don't. Watch him play. Watch Amen play. Boy, woo. So
Amen is having an outstanding year. And I want to see him win Defensive Player of the Year. I wanted to get his flowers. I think that's going to happen when, in my opinion, the Rockets lay hands on Golden State in this first round series. That's how I'm seeing this. Now, with Amen Thompson, that's the role acceptance that he has come up under because he's a lottery pick and he's come into, and he's mastered his role. And that is coaching and that is culture and that is structure. Okay. And this Rockets organization that has so much young talent, people don't realize they still have Reed Shepherd, who's a dude who's not even really getting the minutes that he will get soon because they're just loaded with lottery picks that are playing in a system where, they're being built up. So specific to Amen Thompson, he didn't come into the league as a lockdown defender. He came into the league as just a flat out all-everything athlete that was more offensive minded. And he's accepted the defensive role. He's mastered that defensive role. He's playing for a coach
that said he was a great defender.
He's playing for a coach, MA, that
coming from the G League, he was a good defender. In the G League, in his draft stock, defense was a part of his.
Was a part of that.
I would say, yeah. It's not like he just became a good defender in the NBA. He's always been a good defender.
All right, and now he has a very gifted, defensive-minded coach. MA,
yes,
in terms of what he's able to scheme up.
I would say he's not one of those defenders who accepted the role and said, all right, I'm going to be an amazing defender. I feel like he was already in his profile was amazing defender. Because of how athletic he is. Right.
But he can do other things as well. And I like the fact that he's not necessarily, because there's not, they have enough offense as it is. Right. So
hey, Wolves in 4. Let me get that take real quick. Wolves in 4.
In 4?
In 4. Lakers don't have the pieces right now to beat complete teams.
Yeah. I think the Lakers will win a game. But I think the Wolves, and frankly, they shouldn't be losing by 23 points if the Lakers but to me, the Lakers are a team that is susceptible, right, to getting blown out. Like if you're in like combat sports, and they talk about like like if you're a champion, but like once you get knocked out once, well, like you're more susceptible to get knocked out again. That's just the science behind it. So you've been this great champion, and then like you have your on the women's side, Ronda Rousey was all world beater, and then she got dinged once, and then she got dinged multiple times. With the Lakers, like I said, this is a team that on paper, people talking about the Lakers going to the championship, that's a nice storyline, but it's just not realistic because
It's not realistic.
you have a star that's in his 20th year, that's over 40. So you have a 40-year-old LeBron, not a 30-year-old or 25-year-old LeBron. And because he's such a physical specimen, sometimes we forget that, A. B, you got Luka. Luka is still trying to get his feet under him. Like he just got the wool pulled over. He just got the carpet pulled out from under him. So you're not getting the same Luka that you got last year that just torched the Western Conference, right? Luka has to he's still figuring this out. He's figuring it out professionally. He's figuring it out personally. So those are the two people. Those are the two straws that stir the drinks for the Lakers, and they're both susceptible. So to your point, you could be right because the Minnesota could smack them again in Game 2 and then just close the door in Game 3, and then the Lakers will they'll just concede in Game 4. So
I just see a sweep. I really do. I see a sweep, and it's lack of depth, inexperienced coach. It takes a point of time where it comes to they show up to a playoff game and they're playing like it's a regular season game. That's because you didn't prepare them for a playoff game. Like that is your job as a coach, is to not let your team come out and play like it's the regular season, because it's not. And if you do play like it's the regular season, you catch a blowout. And they have a hungry superstar who has something to prove. We share the same birthday, and he's going directly through the king. Not around, not up, not through. Through.
No doubt. Ant-Man, he made it clear, no uncertain terms, that he wants to be on, at the top of the NBA, wants to be the face of the league, and is going, I like the attitude that he has, in terms of like, he's a friendly guy, all those guys get along and all the rest of that stuff, but he's coming at people. You know what I mean? I'm coming at you, and I'm here to establish my legacy. So the Lakers could most certainly get swept, and the Timberwolves are better. Like they went to the Western Conference Finals last year, and they lost a very good player in Karl Anthony Towns, but they got a very good player in Julius Randle, and they got Dante DiVincenzo, and they have these other players. McDaniels is solid. Naz Reid can do his thing. Obviously, Rudy is your defensive stopper. You got some, Alexander coming off the bench. They got some young guys coming off the bench. They haven't been as consistent as a team like the Clippers, who I think are going to, advance to the second round, and are going to be a tough out. But let's remember, like the Clippers don't have, and we disagree on the Clippers because you're big and you think Kawhi's going to be healthy, and I hope he's healthy, but I'm not banking on it. But the Minnesota Timberwolves have an All-NBA first-team level player in Anthony Edwards who can just take over games. And then they have the pieces around him, right, to do all the little things. All right, Rudy's going to rebound. Conley's going to distribute. Jaden Daniels is going to defend. Randall can take off some of the burden scoring. They have a structure, right? And then they have just like a true superstar elite player that you can just if things go, if nothing is going right, then you have a player.
Anthony Edwards can give you 40. Anthony Edwards could pop off for 50 or 40.
Yeah, he can take over a game. You have a player that can take over the game.
Take over the game. And there's like maybe 3-4 of those players in the whole league. So it's like, the Wolves, I know the Wolves could win the West because the Thunder struggle with the Wolves. The Thunder struggle with the Wolves.
Yeah, for me, it's OKC's to lose. I have OKC in the field in the West I'm bullish on the Thunder. I see them as a threat to the Celtics. Just because the Thunder remind me a lot of a team like the San Francisco Giants and how they won all those World Series. Like they won like 3 or 4 World Series. The San Francisco Giants won like 3 or 4 World Series before the Dodgers won 1 World Series, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll go ahead and get those stats up there. But it's like, how does the San Francisco Giants win in these World Series, multiple World Series, and the Dodgers have like twice or 3 times or like 10 times their payroll? What the heck is going on? Well, they're just that efficient and they're that just well organized. That's how I feel about OKC. I think they don't have they have stars that people don't really realize are stars. Like Jalen Williams is a star that is not really treated or respected as a star.
He went to high school in AZ.
I didn't know that.
Right down the street from Pop's house.
Wow. Yeah. Shout out to Chandler and Gilbert. And
went to high school right Chandler right down the street from Pop's house.
South Central Arizona. Stars of tomorrow today.
Perry High School.
There you go. I didn't know that. So yeah, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. They bring in Ihart, who was coached up by who? Very good, Tom Thibodeau. Caruso is going to be big for them. They got Kassan Wallace coming from the Kentucky tradition that's come right in, and they're just very they're very efficient. The same thing that concerns me about Detroit. They're young, athletic, and explosive. I think the experience last year being right there, they could have beat the Dallas Mavericks. They could have advanced to the Western Conference Finals. They were the number 1 seed overall last year in the West, and they weren't able to glue it together and get over the hump. They remember that, so I think they have a chip on their shoulder. I think they're coming out with something, with a vengeance, feeling that they've been somewhat disrespected. So I have OKC coming out of the West.
The Lakers couldn't even score 100 points, Andre.
Yeah, once again, the Lakers are dependent on 2 guys that are not going to be there. So LeBron can only go to a certain extent. Luka can only go to a certain extent. After that, what do you have? Austin Reeves, Dalton Knecht, Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent. You know what I mean? Like they're just a team of like nice like pieces. I'm dating myself here. But, when Utah was going to NBA Finals in the late 90s, when Karl Malone won 2 straight MVPs, when it really one or both of those should have been Michael Jordan's, you had guys like Howard Isley, on that team, and Russell was their small forward. And, it was like, wow, these are like their young stars, or not stars, but like they're young guys that could, and if they were in it, but you never heard from Howard Isley again after Utah, like after 1998. When the Jazz stopped being in the NBA Finals, right? So that's who all the Lakers players are, frankly, including Austin Reeves. He's a nice player for the Lakers, but on any he wouldn't be like to your point about the Lakers not scoring 100. Well, why didn't Austin Reeves go out tonight and get you 30 points or 25 points or have big numbers? Because he's Austin Reeves. He's a nice player on a decent team. Okay, but the Lakers. And this is going to be interesting in terms of what they do next year, right? Because Kevin Durant is leaving Phoenix. I thought it was humorous that, first of all, the whole Mott Ishbia, Stephen A. Smith back and forth is instructive. I'm here for all of it. And Stephen A. Smith said what he said, and then Mott Ishbia wasn't having it, and he counterpunched and he got some shots in on Stephen A. Smith. And so I like that. Don't let people call you out. But your team is a dumpster fire, and you're wasting millions and millions of dollars. You're paying 3 and 4 coaches that don't even work for you. So you know what I mean. But now the latest that I was hearing that they put something out on Bleacher Report, and we can get it up on the screen, that the Suns are going to go they're not going to be about stars. They want to be a defensive minded team and go in a defensive direction. You know what that means to me? That means Booker is out of there. He's headed for Detroit, and Kevin Durant is out of there, and he's headed for the Clippers or whoever else will take him. Back to the Lakers. They need, and it would be difficult. They're in a bit of a difficult situation because they already have too much ego as it is. LeBron James has his ego is an entire universe. Luka Doncic, his ego is an entire universe. But they need a third guy because LeBron is old and Luka is inconsistent. He's not going to play every game. He's going to miss. He's got to miss a lot of games. So Luka's he's going to play like 65, 70 games. Right? And LeBron, same thing. LeBron, you can't play him. He's not going to play 82 games. You got to play like 65, 70 games. So that's 12 games that you need to win in a very competitive West. Who are you going to rely on? It can't, all these guys are just not, they're not dudes. So Kevin Durant, where I think would be a great team for him? The Clippers. That'd be the best place for him to land. The Clippers. And if not the Clippers, then maybe the Lakers. Only reason I say the Lakers is because I don't know if it's a good fit for Kevin. Just because Kevin Durant's a moody guy. He's moody.
I don't think the Lakers with Luka going to the Lakers, I don't see Durant that just won't work. I don't see that working. I really don't.
I think it can work just because Kevin Durant's a basketball nerd, and but it's not even that. Kevin Durant can do what you need him to do when he's going to show up to work, and he loves basketball. But he's an angry person. He's an angry dude. He's not a happy person.
I would beg to disagree. I just think he's so nonchalant that he's just nonchalant.
Yeah, he's nonchalant, but then at the same time, you had the rumors and the crickets that like he just doesn't talk to anybody and he just stays to himself, and he doesn't have enthusiasm. You know what I mean? He's quiet, he's to himself, but he's like surly. He's not a happy quiet.
Let me ask you this, Trey. This is the question I'm going to pose for you tonight. Luka or Ant Edwards?
Who would I prefer? Ant. Because Ant,
I'm gonna have to say I have to agree. Ant Edwards every day of the week.
Yeah, he's more durable, and Ant does like Luka. See, and again, they went head to head, and Luka won last year. So
yes, Luka did win one.
He did win. So don't sleep on Luka because he's not explosive. He's a dude.
No, but the thing is with. I'm thinking I'm taking Ant over Luka, and it's not even just like I'm just like he's younger right now. He's younger.
Yeah.
People said he couldn't shoot. Fine. 2 years later, led the NBA in threes.
Yeah. He's explosive. Yeah, Ant-Man. I mean, and it's what I mean. It's a tomato thing. But I just think you get he's gonna be out there more than Luka. Luka has to miss games. He has to rest his body, and then this is my point about Kevin Durant. You get more good energy from Ant than you do get from Luka. Now again, this is where.
Hey, so here we go. Hold on, while we're in this take. That's where I'm saying if the Wolves do not win the finals, where does Kevin Durant end up? In Minnesota.
I like that. I think that's great. Yeah, you go and then
I think that's the perfect, Ant's a high energy guy.
Yeah.
Durant's the cool, calm, collective guy. It's the perfect little mesh. That's why, and Ant would love to play with KD. So I see that's where I see KD going is directly to the Wolves, and really kind of I feel like either there or Memphis. I don't know if Memphis has the pieces to get KD. Maybe I really don't think they have the pieces. Scottie Pippen, JJ Jackson. I don't know if they have the pieces, but I see Memphis or the Wolves are the two places that KD ends up.
I like both of those. And where the heck is Marcus Smart, by the way? I thought is he injured? He's out for the season or something like that?
No. He's playing for the Wizards.
Oh, we got traded to the Wizards. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that.
I mean, him and Middleton both went to the Wizards to pretty much, they're going to fizzle out.
Oh, yeah, and the Kuzma deal?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, with Kevin Durant and Memphis, I like it. That might allow the Suns to get somebody like I think JJ Jackson is Like he's the
That's-
guy that he's on the come up, and he needs to go to a place where
but I mean, those are
Gigi
people
Jackson.
that I
Let him
see.
go to a place where he can get some minutes, where he can get out there and run wild, and he will produce for a team. He could be, he's going to be, he'll add stability. Because Ja is hot and cold. He can kind of fit in with what they're doing. There is a little bit of because you have Ja, you have Bane, you have Jaren Jackson III, so there's not a ton of shots to go around.
That's the thing. So that's where I would say one of them, maybe Jackson would have to go.
And I'm not doing that if I'm Mets. I'm not trading, my young all-star for, a 36, 7-year-old Kevin Durant. I'm not doing that. And I'm not, if I'm Memphis, I'm not trading any of those three. So you can have GG, you can have my young lion, but that's it. You can have my young lion off the bench, but I'm not trading any of my core three all-star level guys. No. Absolutely not. So again, back to Kevin Durant. I see the Clippers being a destination for him. He's not going back to OKC. That's not happening.
I don't see the Clippers because of how well Kawhi's playing. Like, I just don't see him going to the Clippers.
Yeah, but he can play the three.
Kawhi plays the three.
Or then Durant can play. He can play the 2 or the 3. It makes no difference. So if I'm the Clippers, you might have to move off of Norman Powell. But so what?
That's fine. So what? Yeah. So what? Yeah.
Yeah.
You move off Norman Powell.
Yeah.
Yeah. You move off Norman Powell if you
to get Durant.
KD for every day of the week.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, and that's, because I have the Clippers beating Denver in 6 games max because Denver was stupid and traded and got rid of a NBA championship coach. But that's neither here nor there. Wanting to scuttle their own team, but you did it to yourself. And the Clippers have a first-rate organization, but it's like, this is a team that is known. They're just so much structure and stability. Like they're getting the most out of James Harden. You don't hear any reports about, and James Harden lives and is from LA, but we're not hearing the reports about him being, the MVP at the Gentlemen's Club. We're not hearing, all of these things. We're not seeing, and that's been really what he's been known for in every stop, particularly in Houston, 4th largest city in the country. James Harden's now in the 2nd largest city in the country, and he's committed to basketball and he's playing at a very high level. That's organizational strength, So again, back to Kevin Durant, I want Kawhi to be healthy. If Kawhi Leonard is healthy, they could go to the Western Conference Finals. Period. The Clippers can go to if you give me a healthy Kawhi Leonard, if this team is at full strength, which they haven't been at since the bubble, they're not more talented, but they're more together. They're more together. So, you know what I mean? Like who else is so all right. So after the first round, it's going to be OKC, Minnesota, Houston, and the Clippers. I think it's going to be Houston and OKC. I have the 2 young Lions meeting in the conference finals. But Minnesota has more, they have the experience, and they're going to have the best player on the court. And the Clippers, they just have the experience. So the Clippers are the what? So they play the 3-6. So the Clippers would play against Houston. Houston is better than them, but it's close, right? Because if I'm Houston, right, I'm trusting. Okay, so you got Jalen Green is better than Harden is better than Van Fleet. Jalen Green is better than Powell. Who's their 3? Thompson and Kawhi. That's interesting. Advantage Kawhi.
Kawhi's too bigger.
He's better than him. All right, so your 4 is going to be Jabari Smith against whoever the heck they have. Advantage Jabari Smith. And the 5 is Sengun against Zubac.
Zubac is locking up Sengun.
No, he's not going to lock it up.
Because you got to think of Zubac just.
He's not going to lock him up,
but he just got through Joker. He just got if he plays the Rockets, he just got through Joker. Sengun, I'm sorry, because Joker's going to try to go for 40 every game.
Right. So you could say advantage Zubac, but Sengun is like both of those guys should have been all-stars. So that's a kind of a wash. So you look at it, it's like it's a very evenly matched series. It's just the Rockets. The Rockets
Rockets aren't going to be there because they're not beating the Warriors. So
okay. All right. Again, what I'm saying is that the Clippers can break through and make it to the conference finals as a team that is not more talented. I'm going to repeat myself here. The Rockets are more talented than the Clippers. They're just young. They're going to be ridiculous with the amount of top 10 picks that they have that are filthy playing together. Reed Shepherd is going to be a dude. Jalen Green, dude. Amen Thompson, dude. Jabari Smith, dude. Sangoon, dude. And none of these guys are 30. They're all like early 20s. So the Rockets, yes. You know, they're filthy. But they have to, and they have a coach that's going to, coaching them up. The Rockets are very similar to Oklahoma City. Homegrown, talented, young. All right,
the
Clippers can get by.
It doesn't matter, Andre. We're having all this conversation, but the journey starts tomorrow for the repeat. Celtics are repeating. I watched, the first half. The Celtics are repeating, and I really hope that whoever comes out of the Western Conference is ready.
Yeah, I think Orlando is going to win a game, at least one. Orlando, healthy. Mosley knows how to coach.
They're not healthy. They don't have Jalen Suggs.
Okay, true. All right, but they have Cole Anthony, so they had 2 point guards, and so they have Cole.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's still. I mean, I know that Anthony Black's been playing all right, but that's not gonna. The thing with the Magic, and that's gonna really hurt them when it comes to playing the Celtics, is they can't score, and the Magic can't score like that. So when it comes, they're one of the lowest scoring teams in the league.
Okay, but they defend.
All right, but they can't score. So when they can't score, I feel like the Celtics, kind of towards the second half of the season, played the best road basketball in the league. So you better try to steal one at home because we're not losing on the road. I feel like we're dominating this year in the playoffs on the road.
Okay, I hope so. For the Celtics, I look at, across the way in Orlando, I don't have as many issues in terms of their scoring. When you have Monchero, you have Wagner, you have Cole Anthony. They play together. They're tough, tough-minded. So I think that they'll be able. I mean, now they can't score with the Celtics. They shouldn't be able to score with the Celtics. The thing with Boston, to me, is, and it's the playoffs. It's the second season, so they kind of, Here's my thing with Boston. It needs to come from the players, and I keep coming back to them missing out, missing Van Gundy and missing Charles Lee. But they still have, obviously, Mazzulla as the coach. Obviously, Sam Cassell is the assistant coach. You got Emil Jefferson, who's been there for a time. So their coaching staff is not as strong as it was last year, but you still have Brad Stevens in the front office. I'm wondering about Jrue Holiday and Derek White, who should be the best backcourt, right, in the East. And these are two guys that are team, you know what I mean? So the same way that I'm talking about Detroit and how Thompson, and how they just, they kind of imposed their will on, they were just more athletic. They were just the better athletes on the court. Jrue Holiday, Derek White, they're not as young as they used to be. Are they going to, are they going to trade baskets with these guys, these young, dynamic point guards, or is that going to be clearly advantage Celtics? right? That's
To
what
be
I want
clearly
to see.
advantage Celtics.
Okay, I hope so. I hope that Drew Holiday just completely befuddles and outwits Cole Anthony. I hope that Derek White, I don't know who their two guard is, whatever, like, and then obviously JB and JT
Gary
should
Harris.
be, yeah, JB and JT should just be dominant. Crispy P should outmaneuver Black or whoever's on him, right? And to your point, that they should show that they haven't lost a step in any way, shape, or form from last year. I hope so. The thing with the Celtics and my Knicks right now are trying to, is that they're going to have a tougher road to get there. Right now, it's not going to be any cakewalk for the Cavaliers playing against Indiana in the second round, because Indiana is going to be tough, and Rick Carlisle, and they're healthy. So, but and frankly, I'm not sleeping on the Pacers in any way, shape, or form. But the Celtics have two series against the Knicks and against Cleveland where that those could be 14-game series, right? And they're going to have to, and for Cleveland, go on the road. So we shall see. I'm looking at it, and you have knockdown, drag out against the Knicks, knockdown, drag out against Cleveland, and then Oklahoma City. That they have a tougher road. I think last year, like Dallas, that was a favorable matchup for them. Or if Minnesota had broken through last year, you had two teams that just kind of were like, oh, we're in the finals. What's this all about? Whereas the Celtics had, they had the experience having been in the finals and having been in the conference finals. Right?
All I got to say is the man Jared Allen said it, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. The lights are bright in the playoffs. The lights are bright in the playoffs.
That's a bright in the playoff. I don't know how much longer you can stay. I do have some slice of life stuff if you wanted to touch on that. I don't know how much longer you're going to be on with us.
I could do one real quick.
Yeah,
I could do one quick slice of life.
Okay. My people on IG, I hope you're able to stay with us as we continue. And sometimes it so you're with me, and that's a beautiful thing. And so we'll go up the line. I just saw something that was interesting vis-a-vis that 50 Cent had to say that I wanted to get your take on. We got a couple other things, but we're going to get this, just about, different perspective between whether you live in the city, whether you live in the country, where you're coming from. And I got to go up, and then we'll come back down. Okay. It'll be 1 second. See one of my college classmates doing his thing. Always love to see that. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Shout out to Mick Foley, giving back. Oh, speaking of Jalen Williams, had a clip from him. We might come back for that. Okay, here we go. Let's cue this up and get your take on what Mr. Curtis Jackson. No, give me the. All right, let's get it for the people. A little bit of a delay. Sharing is caring. All right, bro, your takes on this quote, right? About this perception of depression. Only the privileged can afford depression. Where I come from, you stay in bed, you starve.
Depression's a luxury.
Wow.
Because where I'm from, you can't afford to be depressed. You got to pay the bill, right?
Right.
So you gotta go to work. You gotta get up. You gotta go do what you gotta do. You got people right now that's at work don't feel like being there,
Mm-hmm.
but they got responsibilities, so
Yes,
they go.
sir.
They feel uncomfortable while they're working, while they're doing what they gotta do. Like, when these guys get in a slump and they just decide that they're not gonna do anything, I'm like, where they do that at?
Right.
Even when you're on the street, you got a pack. You just decide not to come outside.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat you. You're gonna beat to death. Wait till you come out. I think depression is a luxury.
Wow.
Because where I'm from, you can't afford to be depressed. You got to pay the bill, right?
Right.
So you got to go to work. You got to get up. You got to go do what you got to do. You got people right now that's at work don't feel like being there,
Mm-hmm.
but they got responsibilities, so
Yes,
they go.
sir.
They feel uncomfortable while they're working, while they're doing what they got to do. Like, when these guys get in a slump and they just decide that they're not gonna do anything, I'm like, where they do that at?
Right.
Even when you're on the street, you got a pack. You just decide not to come outside.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat you. You're gonna beat to death. Wait till you come out. Decide not to come outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I mean, yes and no.
Yes and no.
In terms of if you got to support yourself, your family, then there's no time for sitting there laying up in bed.
Yeah, man. That and let's be clear, that mental health is real, and you do need to have the check-ins and have your support systems and all of those things. But a lot of things, like what I call it, is you hear the term like first world problems. One of the things that I say, coming from my history background, is I call them patrician problems, right? And that's me. That's the historian in me. Like you look at ancient Rome, you had two classes of people. You had the plebeians, which was the common people, which was the majority, and then you had the patricians, which was the upper class. Okay, and they had the good seats in the Colosseum and the amphitheater. All the patricians were the upper class. They had wealth and privilege and status and all the rest of that stuff. And then the plebeians was everybody else. So I call them patrician problems. Okay, to his point, like he said, if you're doing a 9 to 5, if you're doing a rush hour in the morning, right? You hit your Dunkin' Donuts, you get your, your old fashioned donut or your coffee culotta or whatever. And how many people would rather have just taken the day? A majority of the people would rather take the doggone day and rest because you're tired and you got. Now, on the other token, there is a benefit in the structure and the socialization that comes with it in the 9 to 5. But you have to climb, you have to, get yourself up, get yourself out there, make it to work, get yourself situated. You know what I mean? Get into like the first hour. And then after a while, you start to feel better and you start to feel good. And then you start to have ideas. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Okay. You say you're going to do all these other things, but then, once you commute back from work or whatever your situation is, you get back home and you're tired. So you say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, but, you've been up since whenever. So, if you're younger, you can have a little bit more stamina. You get a little bit older and it's like, man, once you sit down, you get tired. But yeah, that's what I took from that. You know what I mean? It's I understand that anxiety and stress are there and, it's a part of everyday life. But I think there's a difference between that and depression. Like there's different, and we just throw depression out.
Yeah, I would say
depression gets thrown out a little bit too much. And I think,
I agree. I agree. Now, yeah, I agree.
I think, you're stressed out. Yeah, I understand you're stressed out. That's where it comes in, your self-care, your check-ins, make sure you got yourself hydrated, make sure you got, the food in your stomach, make sure you're exercising and, make sure you're taking care of yourself, so that does it take any of the stuff away? No, that's just a part of, you got responsibilities. So you're going to have some, you got to be on point. That's life, this, and social media might play into that, right? I mean, like, what are we thinking?
I think social media plays heavily into that because people will watch, other people's lives and then try to measure up like, well, their highlight, because all Instagram is just highlight reels. It's just highlight reels for somebody else's life. Like, it's not
That's
like
what
they're
it
gonna
is.
It's not like they're going to show them driving to work on a Tuesday afternoon, sleep in their eye, coffee on their shirt, exhausted, bags under their eyes. You don't ever see that. But that's where you really can take control. You got to find out what works for you and do it every day, and then and grow. And like for me, waking up early, going to the gym, literally getting into that flow of, okay, I'm going to the gym every day, but now guess what? Now you're up every morning at 4 a.m. So even if I have anything going on, I'm up at 4 a.m. I have 2-3 hours before I have to do literally anything.
Right.
So say I wanna wake up, play video games for an hour. Okay, cool. Play video game. I could take a nap before I have to go to work.
Right.
It's more so of you really got to learn how to. It's more of valuing your time and how to manage your time, because now you get so sit on the toilet, scroll on the phone for an hour past, sit on the phone, scroll 2 hours past. What really are you doing? And for me, I've tried to take my free time even to put audibles. If I'm gonna be if I'm sitting down, I can't just be playing video games. Now I gotta have an audible playing in the background. So I'm learning and I'm playing the game because I gotta elevate. And like that's a hunger that come from people telling me I couldn't do things. I would say that's a hunger that came from not making my one of my basketball teams. That's a hunger that comes from just every external force that doesn't believe in you, and you got to fight that. The only person that can fight that is yourself. So that's where it really is more so of you just got to grab life by the horns. And yes, you wake up, you feel a little down, you go on Instagram, you read 7-10 quotes about being down. Now you're further down. So it's like it's really more so of like a cycle, but you need to take yourself out of that. And if it comes out of you don't use the phone, you don't use the phone. For me, you build confidence by building muscle, and especially as you get older, because you lose muscle after 30. So as you get older, you build confidence by being in the gym, because guess what? Now you're in the gym. Now you're playing your favorite playlist that you've been curating and making for the past 2 years. So every time you go to the gym, guess what? You listen to these songs that bring you to a place that only these songs can bring you to for that span. Like that's there's so many levels to really. But I've been working not only I've been working on myself, but finding out what really works for me. And it's more so of like movement, fitness, because growing up, yes, I played a lot of sports and I played everything, but I wasn't really honed in on what was working for me completely. I was more so of like partying or worried about that's there's nothing wrong with that, but as you get older, you can't do that your whole life. Everybody's not an entertainer. Everybody's not getting paid for millions from YouTube just to live. So it's finding out your rhythm, what works for you, what makes your heart beat every day, and doing it. That's exactly what 50 says is That's how you beat depression. You got to find out what makes your heart beat, and you really got to do it. Make your heart beat.
Indeed. Those different inflection points that you have, particularly, when, there's challenges, you don't make a particular goal or checkpoint, specifically, when others are critical, those are certainly opportunities to dig deep, and to say, something, I'm going to make it, whether they like it or not, whether they want me to or not. So, I think all those things, to your point, are antidepressants, or are ways to overcome, move through, sidestep depression. So yeah, good stuff. I don't know if you want to. I got one more. If you want to look at Jalen Williams, who was mentioned previously.
Yeah, but then I gotta go in an hour, so we could do Jalen Williams real quick.
All right. So we'll get Jalen Williams up here. Speaking of the pride of Chandler, Arizona, NBA All-Star. Right? Talks about going to a small school and what that allows for.
Oh yeah, I would say if I could play it back.
Our family is just talent is talent. That's something that can't hide. You kind of just stick to the course. I think for me and my brothers, just go where you're wanted and needed. I think a lot of times people fall into that trap of wanting to go to a bigger school just for the name, and then you end up not playing. And I think a lot of times everybody sees who makes it out of the big schools, and you kind of lose track of how many people don't. And like I said, I think being able to go to a small school where you're wanted, just kind of allows you to shine. And I think that kind of speaks volumes for me and my brother. Just something that like kind of rings throughout our family is just talent is talent. That's something that can hide. You kind of just
I got some a good take on this.
Where you're wanted and needed. I think a lot of times people fall into that trap of wanting to go to a bigger school just for the name, and then you end up not playing. And I think a lot of times everybody sees who makes it out of the big schools, and you kind of lose track of how many people don't. And like I said, I think being able to go to a small school where you're wanted, just kind of allows you to shine. And I think that kind of speaks volumes for me and my brother. Just
thoughts?
Yes. I agree with him 100%. And the reason why is when you're wanted, you can focus on your craft. When you're wanted, you can accelerate in your craft. An example for me is where I started off high school at Sturgis. And I think I played varsity my freshman and my sophomore year.
Yep.
But I was wanted there. They wanted me to be the point guard on the basketball team. They wanted me to. So even in school, now we need to get to class, the teachers appreciate you there as their point guard. So now you're feeling a sense of community. But all you got to focus on is what's really important in terms of getting you to the next level.
Yes.
I got caught in that storm. I went to the bigger school, and yes, got caught in the big politics of not getting as much playing time as I deserved. And that's the deal that you face when you go to the bigger school. Because at the end of the day, when you looking back on it 20 years later, all it is politics. those athletic programs is politics. Who's the coach buddy with? They play. Period. That's what it is. Who's the booster? Who's putting money into the program? Their child will play. Period. That's we grew up in a place that's the way it works. Like I don't know if I don't we grew up in a very small part of the country, but I'm sure that's probably how it works everywhere else.
Yeah, like I think grow where you're planted. Is my
Exactly.
takeaway. Um, and the proof is in the pudding when you look at in retrospect. I always use the example of Chef Curry. Playing against Houston Rockets,
Yep,
and we disagree on that. But
exactly.
he wanted to go to Virginia Tech. That's where his dad went, and he's obviously basketball. We got another take. You're not going to be here, but we're gonna look at another.
Keep going. One moment.
Okay, we're gonna take a look at just on this point about the hunger and the drive. But yeah, Steph Curry, he's a basketball nerd. He's committed to it. He lives it. He's about it. It's interesting, kind of seeing some, talking about his journey, how his dad, he played AAU, then his dad said no, took him out of AAU, all the traveling, all the games, they did skill work, individual stuff. And then he came back to the AAU circuit in high school, for the recruiting and the rankings and all that stuff. But, it's that, when you check it out, Steph Curry was unranked. And, the Power 5 school that he wanted to go to, not necessarily basketball power, but, Power 5 school, they told him, you can redshirt and we'll see. Meanwhile, all of his contemporaries are signing and they're going to these big schools, and, he's like, and they just said, we ain't got no time for you. There's no room for you. So he goes to Davidson, school with really no basketball presence or but the Silver Fox, his coach, was happy he was there. We're going to build around him, and the rest is history. Okay. So, I think to what he said, you go to a bigger school, it's just more kids. There's more, as you said, politics. It's tough to get everybody on the same page because there's more people, and that's a larger effort. I think that's, again, back to, high school and where we went, versus, we were the largest school. So, in theory, we had more kids, more talent, but it was harder to get those kids and that talent on the same page, and those parents on the same page, and the coach, it's just more people that you have to get through to, and to get everybody moving in the right direction so you can be really successful, and that's why at times we have struggled with the smaller schools because we're much more talented than them, but they're much more together, and so that's kind of what you have to face and what you have to deal with. So, wisdom from Jalen Williams.
I agree with that.
And he had that support system and that structure to trust the process and to stay true to his journey. And that's where he is now. And again, that he, other individuals can just kind of be, they just want the Power 5 dream, and they're just pushed into that reality. And that's not necessarily the best fit for them at all.
Him and his brother did it. His brother went to Perry and then went to, I think, Colorado.
Okay. So we're going to stay on that point. And then I got a couple other, we got some just other. So we're going to stay talking.
I can do one more.
Okay. I will give you the choice. Do you want to do just kind of, you want to do one more about the hunger and the grind, or do you want to do more just about outtakes, or just about
whatever,
finding yourself in huh?
I'll let you choose.
All right. Let's see here. We'll stick with the hunger and the grind. We'll stay on that theory. Then we'll do some outtakes later. We'll do outtakes. We're going to stay on brand. We're going to stay on topic. We're going to stay on message. We're going to stop sharing this. I think we're doing a little bit better. And we're going to move on to that. We're going to stay on this theory of achievement. Stay in the theory of achievement. And again, I think these three kind of line up one after the other, just about, right? We start talking about this idea of just being down and feeling down and out, which is a part of life. Talked about Jalen Williams growing where you're planted, not worrying about, what everybody else is doing or alleging to be doing based on the social media, that's going on. And then, just bottom line, what it takes.
In my lifetime that I admired how hard they worked. Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Kobe Bryant. He never worked out just once a day. He would get up at 4 a.m. and he would work out for 2-3 hours lifting because he knew he had to get stronger. Then he would go eat breakfast and then he'd come back and he'd make 500 shots. So he'd be there another 2 hours. Then he'd get ready for practice. He'd go through a 2.5 hour, 3 hour practice like it's nothing. Then he'd go have lunch and chill out for another hour. Then he'd come back at night and work out again. Because he was like, if I work out 3 times a day, and all these other guys who are so-called great players, they just work out that one time a day. He said, over a 5-year period, they can't catch me. I've worked on my body. I've worked on my footwork. I worked on my shot. So 5-10 years from now, they can't catch me. They're that far behind. Tracy McGrady was more talented. Vince Carter was more talented. This is no disrespect to those two, both Hall of Famers. But they didn't have that that Kobe had. There's 3 people in my lifetime that I admired how hard they worked. Jerry Rice, Walter Payton,
Sweetness,
Kobe Bryant. He never worked out just once a day. He would get up at 4 a.m. and he would work out for 2-3 hours lifting because he knew he had to get strong. Then he would go eat breakfast and then he'd come back and he'd make 500 shots. So he'd be there another 2 hours. Then he'd get ready for practice. He'd go through a 2.5 hour, 3 hour practice like it's nothing. Then he'd go have lunch and chill out for another hour. Then he'd come back at night and work out again. Because he was like, if I work out 3 times a day, and all these other guys who are so-called great players, they just work out that one time a day. He said, over a 5-year period, they can't catch me. I've worked on my body. I've worked on my footwork. I worked on my shot. So 5-10 years from now, they can't catch me. They're that far behind. Tracy McGrady was more talented. Vince Carter was more talented. This is no disrespect to those two, both Hall of Famers. But they didn't have that that Kobe had.
I have to say I agree.
They didn't have that.
They didn't have the aura. I agree. I agree with that. Hard work plus talent is unbeatable. Hard work plus talent is unbeatable. That's where. So this kind of like ties into like what I say with Ann Edwards. Hard work plus talent is unbeatable. And it's kind of how I like tied it in with Luka. Not that he got worse, but the way that he got beaten in the finals, he should have came back ready to light the NBA on fire. Literally, torch.
Right.
And he didn't. He was not. He actually ended up getting himself traded. So. And I think that's what I think that's really what pushed the Mavs to make that trade. To be honest, I mean, yes, the ownership wants to give him to Vegas. That's the theory, and yes. In honesty, they did not see the work ethic on the day in and day out that they wanted to see from their superstar.
Yes,
moving forward. That's my take on why it even happened.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Luka's situation, I think that, ownership and their angst and kind of being in their feelings about not getting a casino. I think that's what triggered the whole Luka situation. I think it goes beyond basketball. This is billionaires battling against each other. And then, certain billionaires didn't get what they wanted. And so they decided to rage quit essentially and do something that was not really in the organization's best interest, just to kind of, because they could do it. That's my view. Now, specific to, this take with Kobe Bryant, I just think it has to do, I think it's completely spot on, and I just think that it
Spot
is,
on.
certain people taking the long view, and that Kobe Bryant took the long view.
Well, you think of who the other shooting guards were when Kobe Bryant was coming up. So like T-Mac.
Yep.
T-Mac was a team. Oh man, you put on some T-Mac highlights.
Yep.
T-Mac was that dude. Really was that dude. Never got out of the first round.
Nope.
Never got out of the first round. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say T-Mac wasn't working hard, but I'm positive he wasn't doing three a days. And Kobe knew that. That's why he said AI. That's why if AI was 6'6", AI would have been the best player ever. That's why he says that. It's literally why he says that, because AI probably is one of the most naturally gifted players to ever play in the NBA, because he could have so easily played in the NFL.
Yes.
Like, so that's where I really do believe that he's one of the most naturally gifted athletes to ever play in the NBA, because look at the time of when he played. You could hand check.
Right.
But that's where, that's counterintuitive, because AI, when it came down to practice, is AI staying 3 hours after practice? Is AI showing up 2.5 hours early before practice when he was in the league? No, absolutely not. AI don't want to come to practice. So it's like, but it's so like, but that's where you saw where Kobe's career elevated to and where AI's career was.
Indeed,
you know what I'm saying?
No,
I think that's how you get. Yeah, that's how you get to Kobe's way. Was how you got in Walter's way. Jerry Rice is how you elevate yourself, but then that's how you stay in the clouds of elevation.
Right. No, Kobe definitely took the long view, which, on the surface of it, you just kind of, we look at Kobe, the late great, on Mount Rushmore, 5 championships, so he's had that, but, he wasn't accepted when he came into the league, had the air balls his rookie year, he was too serious. He wasn't cool enough. He didn't, so he's just a different type of dude. Had the breakthrough in 98 when he started in the All-Star game, right? But it still took the Lakers additional time. Like, that was in 98. So 98, they didn't get it done. 99, they didn't get it done. And then Phil comes to town in 2000. And that's when, they started, the winning part of it started. But again, he's still in Shaq's shadow. And he had to, like, the 2 iterations of his career, because Michael Jordan was always the epicenter of the Bulls. But it's challenging when, like, it's different. Magic was, like Magic and Kareem is a little bit different because Magic's a point guard, so he's a natural distributor, whereas Kobe's a scoring guard, so he's and then Shaq wants his buckets, and then Kobe wants his buckets, and how do you balance those two things out? What I'm getting at is, Kobe was not trying to be, he wanted to not just be a champion, he wanted to be the greatest of all time. And that's a different mindset. Shaq was happy, but, and a champion is great. But Shaquille O'Neal never aspired to be the greatest of all time. Shaquille O'Neal's
Shaq wasn't chasing Bill. Let's just put it this way. Shaq wasn't chasing Bill Russell.
No, and so with that, he's going to play the hard the season, then he's going to, the off season is the off season. That's my time for me. And Kobe just took that, their personalities are different in that, Kobe, is much more. He was much more introverted, whereas Shaq is more gregarious and wants to be around people. But the bottom line is, what did Kobe? Kobe, one of the things that Kobe says that he says leadership is lonely. Leadership is lonely, and all those things that he was doing. It was lonely times, and I'm gonna say, and this is no one versus another, but that's why he has 5 championships, and everybody does not have 5 championships. But Kobe Bryant has 5 championships, okay? Because that time that he put in, that mentality that he had that went along with those hours that he put in, he did not blink in those moments.
Same. You could throw Tom Brady in that conversation. Yep. You don't ever blink when them lights come on. You got to shoot that big shot, throw that pass.
Right.
You don't ever blink. It's almost like it's another day in the park because you're prepared.
That you've lived it, and so you're ready when that moment. You're ready when that moment arrives.
I mean, that's how that Falcons comeback. That's how something like that happens.
That is how it transpires. And so, all right, bro. Not sure how much. I know you got to get going.
Yeah, I could probably jump on tomorrow. We could do a quick little Easter sesh, talk some more culture stuff.
Much obliged. Yeah, and we got plenty of playoffs. There'll be games.
We got tons of games. The Celtics are on tomorrow, so big night. I'm pumped. Man. We got Easter, and then we got Celtics. So a lot of good games tomorrow. You think Memphis? You think Memphis could win set the Thunder?
No. I think that's Memphis is a good team. Again, they were the number 2 seed for a lot of the year, and then they made the decision to get rid of a capable coach and kind of tank their season, as far as I'm concerned. And they were sliding, but you still could have went into the playoffs whole instead of fractured, disjointed. But OKC, and I think people are going to understand just how talented, together, dangerous that they are as this playoff gets underway. It's just it's OKC in the field in the Western Conference for me. OKC in the field. As far as I'm concerned, in the West, and so, bro, we're gonna get ready to. I know you got to skedaddle, and
I appreciate you for having me.
Sand City Sports. We're gonna get. Hold on, we're gonna get ready to skedaddle, but I just got one more thing as you get ready to get up and out of here. Think you'll appreciate this. We got good, you know what I mean? We did the serious stuff, and then we got some good energy. Bro, I know you're quite busy, but thank you so much for the time that you put in. You know what I mean? You want to get to the point where the old heads, you know what I mean? You want to still be able to, you know what I mean?
You get ready for the wedding?
Yeah.
You better be getting your dancing shoes for the wedding.
Get them on, folks. Want to still be able to get out there and bust a move. At the wedding, at the reunion.
I go on and on. Can't understand how it lasts so long.
Dre, you better get your dancing shoes ready.
I'm going to have them ready to go. All right, bro. Thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate you, Sand City. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Y'all didn't know Dad and Granddad still
You understand? This seems to be some sort of alumni gathering. This right there. That's life goals right there. I want to still be able to look at dad and granddad go. Come on. You understand, folks? Your little one, these little whippersnappers. Took me a while to get it out. Your little whippersnappers. Think I got a little rhythm? Think the old heads don't know how to, you understand? It's going around again, folks. We Sand City Sports. We for the business. You know what time it is. You put some respect on my Knicks name that this is out there. It's past midnight on the Eastern Coast, the East Coast. Happy Resurrection Day, happy Easter to all those that celebrating. Happy April vacation. Marathon Monday is on the horizon. NBA playoffs. Take care of yourself, folks. Take care of yourself. You understand? Get your community, your support system. Keep it positive. Keep it productive. Keep it uplifting. You understand? All that good stuff. And we keep getting the job done. Right? What we see from this, the beat goes on. You hang in there, you're going to be all right. We going out on this. I'm your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. Thank you so much for tuning in to Sand City Sports. Go New York, go New York, go! Put some respect on my New York Knicks name. It's going to be a battle in the Eastern Conference, and we're here for all of it. Okay? And we will see you again the next time. Peace!